I didn't realize what time it was. Jade Louis, my love for art. I didn't realize what time it was. My bad. My bad. California love. That was my bad. Sometimes when you get to a conversation, especially if it's a slightly heated conversation, you don't keep track of time. So that was my fault. All right, hold on. Shut up, Mage. I didn't pay attention to what time it was. I'm only an hour late. That's like standard, you know, for me. It's like a standard par for the course. Am I back yet? I should be back. Hello? Yeah, yeah, 10:30 Central. Yeah, we're good with that. We're gonna go with that. See, what happened was, I know. I hope Lilo comes back because that was their question. Versatility of the daughter is BPT and cut herself on the time. Yeah, but that keeps them from suiciding. I'm fine. Things, it could always be worse, you know? Where's that? Wait. Is it this way? This way? There was the, where's the thing where I can get there's Lilo. Okay. Where I can get all the comments really big. I can't, I can't get it to go. Okay. All right, there's 30 people in there. We're going to go with that. So Lilo was wanting to know about what to do. Why is it fuzzier up there than down here? What the fuck is going on with my... Can y'all see that up there? Does that look lighter up there? Or is it just me? Swipe the chat over. Yeah, that's what I was trying. That's what I was trying to do, but nothing's happening. Like normally when I do it. It's not. Okay, anyway. So for like, hey Talia, so for like 4 different attempts here was to me to talk to y'all about what to do, what kind of magical things you can do with a fetus deletus. Now, let me do my legal commentary, okay? The unmedical use of a human fetus is punishable by law under the desecration of a corpse titlement, which varies per state. Okay? We good? Thanks to those new conservative laws. That's your, what do you call that? That's your little warning thing. That's it, PSA, okay? So from here on out, because it does apply to any type of fetus. From here on out, I shall be using chicken fetus because the same thing that you can do with the human one, you can do with the chicken fetus, as it is in my ingredient book. I have the bag, not the fetus. The bag? You mean like the sac? The amniotic sac? Hey, Loam. Or Lomelli. Are you talking about the amniotic fluid? And the sac or the placenta? Those are all three different things. Yes, you can go to jail over a blood clot. Yes, you can. Well, I'm waiting for her to answer, y'all, because there's three different. That's why I tell y'all not tell anybody you're pregnant. Stop telling people that. Hey, Asa. Dominic, I have the placenta, I think. It was the blob. Yes, okay, that's the blob. My Amazon got hacked. I'm so worried about all my information being known by a stranger. Thousands of strangers can get your information at any time off the internet. I don't know if that makes you feel better. Okay. Well, since I brought up the fetus, I will talk about the placenta first, and then we'll talk about the blob. So, the placenta, ideally, when the woman should. Well, Cordelia, you can contact Amazon and shut down that information. The woman should really eat that. That's what we used to do, is eat it. Of course, I don't mean literally just eat it straight out of your vagina. There's places now that dry it, grind it, and put it in little gel caps for you to eat. Well, it sucks, Cordelia. Because that's a lot of nutrients and oxytocin that you're losing whenever you push the placenta out. So, yes, animals do eat it because of the smell, but that's not the only reason that it should be eaten. Even people are like, ew, gross. But that's what you're supposed to do. Now, clearly that wasn't done. Now, one thing you can do with the placenta is for child protection. So, in other words, the same people, now technically you can dry it out yourself, although you need a freeze dryer or something for that. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to sun dry it, it's going to rot. But in small sections, you can cut sections out of it and dry it and smash it up and use it in like a child protection bath, child protection spells. Native Americans do something with placentas depending on the tribe. But I'm pretty sure it's closed, but it's one of those things that they would tell you if you ask them that has to do with protecting the child's life. But I'm unsure what they are. You'd have to ask one and they would tell you. But the main reason it comes into play in craft is for child protection, or if the child is sick, you can do a healing candle using the placenta. You can also use it in baneful work to combine with other baneful ingredients, particularly alum. You can combine it with that and some other baneful ingredients in order to force a deletus on someone else. Yeah. It's one of the most nutritious things the body makes for good reason. So you can use it either or. You can also use it for... this is the reason I don't use deletus placentas for fertility work. Because it didn't work that time. So there's a reason it let go. Whether it's it's usually there's something wrong with the fetus that has nothing to do with you. I don't forget how many individual genes we have, and if the DNA is not, if there's a typo in that DNA, your body will flush it out. So that's why I don't use deletus placentas for fertility workings. Because there's a certain chemical that the body releases, a hormone, whatever you want to call it, that we're going to get to that causes the placenta to release. It causes the miscarriage. So that's why you don't want to use it for fertility work. You can use it to block someone's fertility, like somebody just asked. So you can use it to block fertility. You can also, oh, I just said that, combine it with alum and uh, other baneful ingredients to try to provoke miscarriage in someone. And those same things apply to umbilical cords, but not the sac. The sac is always protective, the amniotic sac. So any questions about that before I move on to using a chicken deletus fetus? And if I'm correct, you can also use placenta on anyone with a congenital disease to try to aid in a healing spell. Um, I tend to get them before the age that they're killed for balut. I said yes. Everything good or bad that you can use the placenta for, the same applies to the cord. But the sac is always protective. So any more questions before I explain the the non-politically correct uses of the chicken fetus or duck fetus or bird fetus, period. Or any fetus your pet miscarries. Like my cat's first pregnancy, she miscarried all 6 kittens. I'd have to look further into what all Gabriel does before I could make that comparison. Anyway, yeah, are there any other questions or can I move on to the fetus thing? Yeah, I hid one of the kittens in the freezer, the outdoor freezer we had when I was little, and I didn't know why. And then several years later, my mom found it, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know why that's in there." Okay, so, um, so one working that you use in physical witchcraft. This is not the only one you can use. The sacrifice is not required. There are other ways to do this spell. Well, yeah, they didn't seem very upset about it, so I didn't do that. I think Lilo thinks more like me when it comes to miscarriages. So that's why I wasn't like thoughtful in that manner. Plus, that stuff gets uncomfortable, and I'm like, can we just skip over and pretend like we said something? Y'all ever get uncomfortable like that? You're like, how's the weather? You know what I'm saying? So, awkward. So, when you, um, yeah, I thought that was a fitting thumbnail. So, if you're wanting to delete a fetus magically, I'm gonna tell you now, since we got on the subject, the way that you do it. So if your animal miscarries, throw those in the freezer. And I mean, if you're never gonna do painful work, don't worry about it. But otherwise, The most efficient one I've done, and that's based on inanimate objects, which you can still do. You can do candles. You can make a candle that has a little plastic fetus inside. You can do a million different things. But the most effective one that I ever did is to grow chicken eggs in my incubator. And it only takes them 21 days to hatch. So you want to catch it by the 14th day. So that's when it's formed enough, but when you open the egg, it doesn't look like it could get up and start chirping. That makes a lot of people uncomfortable. They like it when it still doesn't have feathers. It makes people more reasonable. And the age of the fetus coincides with by the age of to cause the a miscarriage to happen. So I don't think anybody is interested in, even me and my dark side, in causing a woman to miscarry in like their third trimester. Okay? Because if they had it early, it could still live. You know what I'm saying? That's a little too iffy for me. I'm like, yeah. So we will, in the land of low morals, Ginland. Okay, Luann. You don't want to mess with it on that week 3, because think of the 3 weeks of the chicken as the 3 trimesters of the woman. Okay, so we really don't want to be doing this on like a 3rd week chicken. You know what I'm saying? Because that baby could literally come out early and still be like, yo, what's up? Why'd you try to kill me? We don't want to do that. We want to do that before the baby has a chance to live outside of the body, which, by the way, is the same way I feel about abortion, unless there's a medical problem. So you grow the chicken to about midway between the 2nd week. So when you look inside the egg, when you candle the egg, not the yolk, but the fetus will take up about 50% of the volume of the egg. Now, here's the part where if you have a weak stomach, you might want to go away from this live. So, when you choose to do this, you take the egg out, but you don't want to take it out till right before, you can check it, but don't take it out until right before you're going to do this spell. And what you do is there's an air sac in top of the egg. So like when you're candling the egg, there'll be an air sac in one end. That's the end you want to tap open. Okay? I'm going to tap that in open because there's no blood cells there. Blood vessels. The blood vessels are only on the membrane that's surrounding the chicken. So when you tap open the open end, no blood is being let. Now, when you do your spell work, this is deliberately to cause a miscarriage. You can do it one of 2 ways, okay? You can tear enough of the membrane to have the fetus bleed out and pass slowly, which translates into pretty cruel inside the mother. Or you do everything quickly. So you've pulled off the part of the egg that there's no skin on. You lay the egg down sideways. You pull it open and you stab the fetus. The easiest way is off with the head. And that makes a quick termination in the woman. Now, if there's one thing I will tell you is if you do this spell, from what I have learned, obviously I haven't talked to anybody in another life, but that act may come back to you on another lifetime. That's the only time where I've said, does it matter if you tether it? Now, I haven't spoken to anybody that remembers from a prior lifetime that they might have done that. There's not a lot of witches that do that. So as far as we know, I'm thinking it's probably more along the lines of the threefold law. It's probably something that somebody whose morals were a little bit higher, more Christian-y, would come up with that correlation, because I've done some, I've done a lot of things in witchcraft for money, none of which have been revisited upon me. I personally don't believe that because of what I learned when I died, and that is the soul enters the vessel of the fetus at first breath. Whether that first breath was a premature birth or whether it was a scheduled birth or the rare instance in which they do surgery on a fetus in utero. Whichever one. I just said I didn't know, Mage. You know me by now. Listen to what I'm saying. I don't think it would. Nothing else does. So I think it's just somebody, it got passed along from people being scared. Christianization, being scared. But that's how you do a spell. That's the chicken part of how you do a miscarriage on a woman using a chicken fetus. Which is why, you know which witches know this and which one don't? Who has an incubator in their house? I got one. But, no, Mage, I said people say, like even witches that are not Wiccan, who do not share that, some do and some don't. I said we have no way to prove that because number one, not many witches do it. And number two, it's not like I met anybody that was a witch that did that and died and came back. So we have no proof. And then I said, it sounds to me like someone with a higher, more Christian-y mentality probably made that up out of fear because so many people think that we're more special than an animal for self-abortion. If you're doing it to yourself, you don't have to use your blood. It's in you. But if you were doing it to yourself, I would just do the herbal abortion because then you don't have to worry about anything. Or do both. Do it at the same time. But I've actually never heard this used. Actually, Mage, I'm glad you brought that up. I have never heard of someone using it for themselves or heard of anyone doing that ever. I've only heard of it being done by payment to force another woman to abort or to miscarry. I've actually never heard of a witch doing it to themselves, so I take that back. It might be bad. I wonder why. Never heard that. Can't that be traced back to your blood? There is no blood test to look for those herbs. None of them are a drug. There's, like, even if they find it, there's nothing that, what are you going to do? What are they going to do in court? All you got to do, what? I got rid of my baby through witchcraft? There's no law against that. And there's no test for those herbs. But most of all, I tell every person I come across, why do y'all tell people you're pregnant? Now, I get if you go to the doctor and you take a piss test for something else and they tell you you're pregnant. I get that. But why people insist on telling somebody else they're pregnant, I will never understand. Literally, no one knew I was pregnant until I decided what I wanted to do. And then I was like, you will give me $300. If not, I'm going to make your world a living hell. Like, I made it really clear to that fellow that he had zero say in this. But nowadays, when you can get arrested for it, why the fuck would you tell anyone? Anyone ever? No, absolutely not. Never would I tell anyone I was pregnant. If I know I didn't want to be pregnant. No one. I don't give a fuck. I don't care what the law says. You left your sperm in me. I now possess it. That is 9/10 of the law. You do not get a say over what happens inside my body. Literally don't care what law they make. Ever. Ever. I don't. Well, Mage, that's also why I give dosages. If you go beyond that dosage and fry your kidneys, that's your fucking fault. You see what I'm saying? If you look at that book and go, you know what? I shouldn't listen to Witchfoot Who cares about her X amount of years of practice? I'm going to double dose it. That's on you. If you shut your kidneys down, that's your dumbass fault. If you follow the directions, you won't have that problem. That's why there's directions and dosages. Even when I talk about it on my TikTok, when people are like, you can do this herb too. And I'm like, you better not, and that it's not. Though, no, it is not. See, that's the difference between man's medicine and nature's medicine. That right there. That's why you use whole plants, not extracts. Your weight does not matter unless you were like a little person, like genetically a little person. With natural medicines, it's not, they don't work like that. Mage, you're beating a dead horse here, dude. You're beating a dead horse. If they feel iffy about using it, don't use it. Period. I just said, all I said to you, what I just said was, since I've never literally ever heard of a witch causing an abortion and a miscarriage on herself, that makes me question doing it to yourself. I'd be more worried about that than the dosages in my herbal book. There's, I don't know of one record of any witch ever. You can whatever me all you want. That's it's not my opinion about whole herb medicines. That's not my opinion. Go look it up. Doesn't matter your weight when you're using whole herb, unless you are a genetically small person, like a I don't know what the politically correct word is for midget, little person. That seems demeaning. Yeah, I get what you're explaining, but I'm saying the odds of you, your odds would be better, in my opinion, if witches don't do something. There's usually a really good reason. Is it little person? God, that seems so demeaning. But I'll use it. Whatever. Little person. If a witch, if there's no record of a witch doing it to herself, that would give me bigger pause than worrying about whole plant dosages. I'd be like, if a witch won't, if there's no record of a witch doing it to herself. Okay, Mage. So I'm going to speak in a certain terminology because I know you understand it. You're like, it doesn't matter if substance is a blood. How those compounds enter your blood system makes a huge fucking difference. So when a compound is extracted or composed by man out of the plant, they are stripped of the compound that surrounds the activating substance. How those two things are metabolized in the body is enormously different. The same way, if you take just turmeric, then you also need to take piperine from black pepper, because if you don't, it doesn't work. But if you eat turmeric in your food, it does work because it's straight from the turmeric root. So it makes a big difference, the dosage effectiveness, when it comes to whole plant medicines or extracts. Now that I said it medically or scientifically, so you should be able to understand what I'm trying to say better, since I know your brain works kind of differently, Mrs. Matrix. Anyway, huge difference. So the plants, the way they're structurally, the compounds in them that do the medicine are not just hanging out in there naked. So, in other words, when you eat a bell pepper or any pepper, well, bell pepper's not that hot. So when you eat it's any kind of bell pepper, here's the reverse. If you eat any kind of bell pepper, it's going to be hot. I mean, any kind of pepper is going to be hot. If you pull out the chiasine to where it's just the chiasine and put it in a patch on your back, it relieves your pain. Same way, two different things. So if I have a headache or a pain, I eat a pepper, nothing is going to change. But if I pull out that cayennase and stick it in a patch and put it on my back, it'll take away the pain. Huge difference between the way whole plant compound medicines are metabolized and those that are created by man, which is why they can be metabolized no matter what the size is in the person, because the body breaks down certain compounds the same no matter what your size is. So all of the medication is released properly at the proper time in the proper dosage regardless of weight. It's not something that's stored in the adipose tissue as opposed to the man-made stripped extracts. So I know y'all seen me and Mage go back and forth. Their brain just works different. This isn't an argument. This is the way me and Mage talk, by the way. They're really fact-driven. I'm really fact-driven. But their brain works completely different from mine. Well, I mean, Mage, you don't have to believe it. You can literally go ask any well-educated pharmacist or biologist or those, whatever the name is of the biopharmacist, the ones, the pharmacists that are getting back into using the whole plant medicines because they're so much more efficient. I can't remember what their name is. Oh, there you go. Got a nurse. Oh, an LNS nurse, not just a nurse, a super nurse. So, yes, Maria, I practiced it separate from my last religion. Hindu. My religion doesn't play into my craft. You okay? The only thing is which I'm not going to get into it, so don't ask me. The few workings that I did involving the big guy, I can't do anymore due to the religion. Did you get hungry all of a sudden? Yeah, Mage. I think they're still done that way in the universities. I think the university's still doing that way. That's the way they should all be trained, quite frankly. I feel like, oh, there are boogers in my nose. I got tissue. I don't have a tissue. I meant to wipe it on my shirt. Spellbind. But anyway, that's why, like, I take a certain thing so I don't get a cold ever. Oh, motherfucker, sometimes. Pick your brain on a motherfucker sometimes, like a person. No, he's not around. He's asleep, so to speak. But I don't take the extract. I take the actual plant. We're not going to get into the big guy. I'm sensitive about that. I just said that we're not going to do that. I'm not ready. When I'm ready, emotionally, I will tell y'all as much as I can tell y'all. I can't tell you the exact things that happen during the ceremonies, but when I am emotionally not so sensitive about it, I'll tell y'all everything that happened, as much of everything as I can. What do I take? I take olive leaf every day for the last 10 years now. How old am I? 46, 36. For the last 10 years.
Didn't you say you weren't going to say that so that they wouldn't take...
There's only 70 people in here.
Well, they talk too much.
On one of my big lives, I would never do. And the people, this is on YouTube, so I only have people who actually want to be here. I don't ever want to get the cold, though. That's the difference. So I've taken olive leaf every day for going on 10 years now. Yeah, but I don't.
Yaya survived COVID.
Yep, that's how my granny made it through COVID. No, the leaf ground up into pills. I never want to get the cold, so I don't ever get a cold. It took everything for me to get COVID. And then I think we had COVID for like a week. And my mom was 70 at the time. Yeah, I don't ever want to get the cold. And so I take olive leaf. I eat olive leaves every day for the last 10 years. I take it with all my other medications. You might have had it and not realized it because there were some people that it was like a cold for them. Yeah. Um, it basically you don't get anything viral. So we know what my little friend gave to me when I lost my virginity. I gave him my virginity and he gave me herpes. What a pal. And I didn't even know it until 15 years later. I had no breakouts or nothing. And then my friend got it, and we had been in a threesome. And I was like, oh shit, I better go to the doctor. And the doctor's like, bitch, you've had this for at least 15 years. And I was like, how is that possible? I know it's not a fair trade. And he's like, oh, well, you must be a carrier then. And I was like, the fuck? You can carry it and not know you have it? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh God. Oh man, I was such a whore. I got to go call all those people back. So I called as many of them as I could. But it wasn't a lot because I didn't have their numbers, you know? And some of them were just like that dude in the club. One of them was that transvestite in the club. Like, I don't remember. I partied my ass off. I don't know how I'm not dead. Um, and none of them have it. So apparently I just keep on carrying it. But apparently the olive leaf also blocks any breakouts that I would have if I broke out. Does not help a damn bit with the bacteria, though. It's antiviral. Um, I haven't had a cold at all, or the flu or anything in 10 years now. I think I'm working on my 11th year, actually. In 11th year. 11 years? And COVID, I put my mom on it. So if I'm 11 years, mom's on it about 7 years. I put my mom on it about 7 years ago. So we had COVID. She had COVID for 2 weeks, but I only had COVID for like a week. But you can't get the extract. You got to get somebody. If you look up organic olive leaf capsules, that's how you find the whole leaf in a supplement. Honestly, Mage, I don't know because when I started taking it was after I had a nasty viral pneumonia. And so I never had the chance to try it if it helps with something you already have. What in the world? I do know, you know what? What I do know, Mage, is that if you have any viruses hanging out in your body, when you first start olive leaf, it will make you feel bad for about a week while it kills all those things at once. And then your body has to metabolize all those nasty dead little stuffs out. And then you feel better. Yes, Jesse Corvus. Yes, I do. So the one thing that you want to, an herb that you want to take right away, be mindful of your blood sugar if you have diabetes, okay, is Jemima. It's a plant. It's sold. It's a whole plant. Don't get the extract. It's Gemima, I believe. I have some in the room, but I'm not getting it. Get up to go get it. Jemima, and you can take that every day if you need to. But while you're doing a treatment, Aunt Jemima. Oh, thank you for writing that. I lied. Gymema. Listen, I'm telling y'all because if y'all been with me long enough, that's it, Joni. I just went through this and this is how I cured it. Okay, so listen to me. That, Joni, thank you. Get that and then get caprylic acid. Caprylic acid isn't like an acid when we think of it. It looks like a vitamin E capsule. Okay? Take, I think Jemima treatment dosage is 2 a day. Follow the dosage on the Jemima. And take 2 caprylic acids with it every day. Now, topically, yeah, that same Jemima thing treats under a doctor's supervision. Helps with pre-diabetics and diabetes. Okay, so for topical, anywhere, whether it's your flaps, remember I got cheilitis, and then I touched my eyeball, and so I had cheilitis in here, and then I could barely open my eyes in the morning, it was all crusty. You want to get colloidal silver balm. I actually have that right here. Hold on. Where the fuck is the front? Oh, well, colloidal silver healing salve by Silver Miracles. You get it from Amazon. It's cheap as dirt. I think this thing is like $3, $4, something like that. Okay. This. And then I even put this in my eyeballs. So it can go in your flaps. It can go reasonably in the intermediate area where it's kind of dry but not really. I've even put this when I was having a really bad day. I literally put this shit all not up in the not. This shit is not $15. I got this off of eBay. This salve is nowhere near $15. Oh, you can use it as a douche. Anyways, so I've even put it in my pussy, not like in the canal, but in my pussy, inside my mouth when I had cheilitis, and I also would literally open my eyeball and smear it in here right before I went to bed. So colloidal silver isn't going to cause you blindness or stuff like that. Renal failure, I don't have. I know there are herbs to treat that, but I believe you would want to look up Central and South American herbs to treat renal failure. I know it's a rarer one that you can get from those countries, but I don't remember what name it is. It's out of the Amazon. And I don't remember the name. Black seed oil. I think it became popular and they're like, it's good for everything. The one thing I know it's good for, I can't say no. Let me change that. What I heard it was good for before it became really popular is atherosclerosis in the heart. However, go to an African herbalist shop because they used it for all kinds of shit before we ever got it. So I would look for uses of black seed in Africa. Medical uses of black seed in Africa. And you're probably going to find some of the older ones. I suppose you could charge it. I don't see why you couldn't. My light source is this, and I like keep moving my phone in front of it. Are you saying corn silk tea is a diabetic or diuretic? Okay, diuretic. You can also use corn silk tea, ash, or aspen. Which of the trees, hardwood trees, has the white bark but keeps the paper colored leaves through the winter? Is that aspen or ash? Is that aspen or ash? It's got the white bark, but it keeps the leaves die and make this palm colored leaves, and they kind of stay on the tree throughout the fall. Is that an aspen? Is it an aspen? No, I did not get banned. It kept on glitching. Let me hold on. I'll be right back. Okay, am I back? Am I back? Am I back? Can y'all see me yet? Okay. So, corn silk, paper birch, a paper birch live branch. So, at least that wide and 6 inches long. So, corn silk, a paper birch branch, a live one, and bay leaves into a gigantic stock pot of water. You boil it down 2/3 of the way, you let it boil out, and it'll be really dark. And then you pour in the water again and you let it boil. I'm talking about a stock pot. You let it boil all the way down. You take the ingredients out. You pour that into a gallon. If you are a I'm trying to think of the appropriate language. If you got a dick, you're gonna need 2 gallons. If you do not have a dick, you're gonna need 1 gallon. So you drink, don't overdrink, okay? So, but you have to drink that gallon within 24 hours. And if you, it will break up and you will flush out your kidney stones without feeling it. However, it is not for someone who has a condition that gives them repetitive kidney stones. This is for those people that have been by minding their business and then boom, they got a kidney stone out of nowhere. Okay. So it's not for people who have them all the time, because this is not a treatment you can take on a regular basis. However, doing it once in a while is completely harmless. So if you got a dick, you need to do 2 gallons. And if you don't have a dick, you need to do it 1 gallon. There are other herbs or another herb that I can think of for chronic kidney stones, but I do not know that one offhand. I had to drink this for me. And then not 2 years later, that's how I realized that it was 2 gallons. Oh, by the way, if you have a dick, 2 gallons in 2 days. Don't drink 2 gallons in 1 day. You can drown yourself. You can dry drown. So 2 gallons in 2 days if you have a dick. And I found that out because of my brother. I guess it has to do with the longer distance. I don't know, but that's how it turned out. Oh, yeah. Do I know what can help with remembering dreams? Nope, because I don't remember a damn one of mine. I'm pretty sure I literally went outside and got my paper birch, y'all. You can't get that from a store. It has to be a fresh, living paper birch tree. I don't dream unless it's during the daytime, and I only remember it if I wake up right after that dream. It may be, but I'm just telling y'all, that was the recipe that I got. Y'all remember? Oh, hey, you know what? People were giving me shit about this today. You remember I told you that I worked with the curandero for a while? He's the one. Saliva stones, them things, you just have to flick them jokers out. So, the curandero guy is the one, when I told him what I had, he cooked it at my job. I worked at a restaurant. And No, she's talking about remembering dreams, not for dreaming. With you enveloped in my dream. Oh. He cooked it there at work while I was working. He left, went out, came back, and the tree with the branch and everything. And so I was very anal watching what he did. $17,000. Jesus. That's ridiculous. Let me lay down. Let me lay down and get comfy. Oh my God, what are you doing on my bed? Oh, you're not supposed to be on my bed, you little fucker. Yeah, in America, I wouldn't doubt if it's 17,000. Yeah. So Jimena Sylvester and caprylic acid for any kind of use, because this is the problem that I had. Just in case anybody in the comments is having the same problem, I don't have the regular candida. Nothing in my life can be regular. It's just impossible. I had Candida tropicalis. And they're like, wow, that's really rare. How did you get that? Bitch, I don't know. You're the doctor. Why don't you tell me how the hell I got Candida tropicalis? Because I haven't been having sex in the Amazon. I don't know. So everything that they gave me for yeast did nada. Nada, not even sorta. And also, it was getting out on top of my skin because I'm fat. So it gave my fat rolls and shit. And I was like, this is gross. Um, and so I used myself as a guinea pig. I used myself as a guinea pig. And that's when the winning combination was the Jimena Sylvester with the caprylic acid and the colloidal silver salve for topical issues and your eyeballs. Anything that I've told y'all about, the only reason I've told y'all is because I already used it. I've already used it on myself. I even tell you in the Fetus Deletus book, I even did that one time to myself. I was like, well, this is supposed to work. Let me try it. It did. It worked. Out they came. Flush. I remember going, this is not working. This is not working. The next day, this is not working. The next day, oh my God. I was like, okay, it's working. If their diet is making it come back, it's because it is systemic. It's created a. I just told you how to get rid of it though. It's a biofilm. So he would need to do the gymnia and the caprylic acid for longer. It's done made of biofilm. So you got to have something to get rid of the biofilm. That anytime that you get an illness that is supposedly cured by your antibiotics, and then you get it back again in 6 months, and then you get it back again in 6 months, that means you have a biofilm. And when you have a biofilm, that means you have to yeet in different ways. Drinking colloidal silver is a good way to yeet biofilm. It may be, but I'm only telling y'all what I've used. I have a couple of herbs in there for people with PCOS. So when a woman comes to me because she wants the fertility that I sell, she has to meet with me first. Because if they're having fertility problems because of PCOS, we have to address that first. And 99 times out of 10, what the doctors are prescribing is not working. And so I will send them an email that has all the supplements to take and links so that they can go investigate for themselves And then after they get the PCOS under control, oh, you're talking about, okay. After I get the PCOS under control, then I will give them the thing. She's one of those that's allergic to the sun. Okay, you need to look at, hold on. Let me make sure that I'm talking about the right plant. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Tell me when you can see me, everyone. Because I have to spell this out. Can you see me yet? Can you see me yet? Can you see me yet? Okay. I'm going to try to spell this word out. LACTUSA space VIRUSA. That is the Latin name for wild lettuce. So when you're wanting to do someone that has that kind of pain issues, you want to look up wild lettuce pain relief. That Latin name is to make sure, thank you, Kai. I gave you the Latin name so you could make sure that you're getting the right thing. It grows outside if you're in the United States. To make sure you're getting to the websites that tell you how to prepare that sap. I was kind of, I mean, on one hand, I was glad that it made it to the internet, but on the other hand, I was like, do you know how many people are going to grab the wrong plant and fucking poison them, give themselves massive diarrhea? But it grows outside. It's a weed that people kill. It grows here. I'm in South Carolina. It grows here all the time. Look up that. Wild lettuce. That was the Latin name for pain relief. Don't get one somebody has made. Let me be very, very clear. That's why I gave them the Latin name, Spelldine. Do not get one someone else has made unless you go, what is the name? What is the name of that lady on TikTok? She's the Appalachian, shows you how to do like growing mushrooms and making all kinds of tonics. And she's got long straight hair and a great sense, long brown hair and a great sense of humor. On TikTok, what is her name? She sells stuff now. No, not the Forager. She did a funny video that went viral of how to put on your shoes in Appalachia in the winter. And she put on some Ziploc bags and then some grocery bags and then some other bags and then her socks and then her boots. What was her name? It might have been, I think that was the one that made ice cream. What is her name? How come when I want to know the name, I can't think of it? Anyway, somebody like that, when they make salves, you can trust them. Otherwise, learn how to do it yourself. Do not get a commercialized version. You are wasting your money. You learn to do it yourself, or you find one of the Appalachian folks that I don't know every single plant outside. Or you find somebody like that lady who her whole family has done this. Or if you live somewhere where you have mountain folk, go find them. Go take them some food, make them a casserole and a pie, and drive your happy ass up to the mountains and ask them. I don't know where you live, so if you do and you can't find it, go up to the mountains. They'll tell you. All you gotta do is be nice, treat them with respect, bring them something to eat and some pie, and they'll help you. Shit, you're in Australia. Look for that lady. Look for... You don't want to use the word witch. Hold on. Look for like, no, it is not. No, it's not no Appalachian forager. This girl kind of thick. She makes tonic from old man's beard. She has a. Hold on, I'll be right back. Am I back? Am I back? Am I back? Can y'all see me yet? Yeah, y'all were totally right. It was Appalachian underscore forager Whitney, and I was totally wrong. So I'm just here to admit I was 100% wrong and you were 100% right. I had her confused with the other mushroom foraging lady. Yes, Appalachian underscore forager. Did you see how sure I was in my wrongness? Did y'all see how sure I was in my wrong? No, not Appalachian forager. Ah, yes, Appalachian underscore forager. Hey, this automatically uploads to YouTube, so we can just add it to the rumors list. Yeah, I was confident in my wrongness. Same thing I'd be calling other people out for. But the difference is I never claimed not to be a hypocrite. That's the difference. I know I'm a hypocrite. I like some things for me, but not for you. Don't do it.
Is it normal with chest tattoos for some of the ink to fall out? Not
Yes, because the amount you sweat and you sleep and you don't even know it.
okay. I was just wondering because my chaos is still there, but some aren't as bold and whatnot.
Yeah, they can fill it in, but yeah, you sweat there and you don't even know it. Um, yeah, I never claimed not to be a hypocrite though. These people be claiming not to be a hypocrite. I'd be like, I'm a huge fucking hypocrite. For instance, I'm all for equal rights, but not when it comes to my uterus. I do not want to ever do construction. I never want to be called forward as infantry in war. No, thank you. So I am a hypocrite. I only want equal rights when it's convenient for me. But I will admit that to you. That's the difference. I'd be a big old hypocrite. I'd be like, no, it's wrong, but only sometimes. Yes, I will. You know why? Because that's the truth. It's just the truth. It's the truth. For instance, here's another one where it's true, but sometimes. I swear to God, I would not be fighting for that. Here's another one. Should prisoners be used in like forced slave labor, like they used to do with chain gangs? Depending on their crime? Absolutely. Should prisoners not have certain things that everybody else takes for granted, like air conditioning and stuff like that? Yes. Yes. The ones where you're sure, if the, I put it to you this way, if the justice system actually put guilty people in jail, then yet, no, they should not have air conditioning. They should not have amenities. You're in prison. You talk. If my dad was alive, let him tell you what prison was like compared to what these protein waffle eating pussies are dealing with right now. They think it's bad. No, 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 no. It's not bad as it was in the 70s and 80s, where the people back there were literally shit in your soup. Like, no. I don't know what the bloody eagle is, but no. Should they have amenities like air conditioning? No. No. You're in prison. You violated someone else's rights, so now your rights get violated. However, because the justice system is so crooked, I don't advocate for that right now. Because there's so many people in jail that didn't do anything. That's just the truth. But the point is to not want to go back to prison. That's the entire point of prison. Not anymore. Not anymore. Should prisoners be allowed to get a motherfucking college degree for free? No! No. No. Okay? No. Finishing high school? Yes. A trade or something from a trade school? Yes. Why do I say yes to those? Because everybody gets covered for those even when they're out. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of the Pell Grant, but everybody's, no matter what your sex or age, you can be covered by the Pell Grant. That covers the most trade schools. Anything over that? No. No. I should not have $40,000 or more in debt from college, and you don't. Absolutely not. No. But see, Jesse, I will donate all the tax money you want for those folks. All the tax money you want for all the programs, halfway houses, to integrate back into society. I will gladly pay for that. And I also think that once you paid your debt, it should not be allowed, unless you are a repeat offender, it should not be allowed to pull that for you to get a job. You paid your debt. Why is it allowed to be pulled for jobs? That's bullshit. That's discrimination. Once you have filled out your full term, that includes probation, no one should be able to pull that. No one. In America, you're never done serving your sentence. You never have paid your restitution ever, because any employer can pull that. No, I don't think it should be off their record. I don't think their record should be able to be pulled. Period. Okay, so they can separate that. It's very easy to do in the computer programs. If your time is served, it gets archived. Period. Once it's done, it gets archived. It should not be legal to pull that. Those men, well, usually you hear about it from men. I'm sure it's women too. They pay for the crime for the rest of their life, and then you wonder why they're back in there. Can't get a job, not even an honest job, and it's bullshit. Because I'd say 90% of the people who are in prison are good people that made a bad decision. The reason, and I know I have some people who don't think this way in my following. The reason there are more POC in prison is because the system is set up that way. Period. If you don't have money, you're going to go to prison. Period. Now, since POC are more likely not to have money, now there's a lot of white people that have to take plea deals too. Don't get it twisted. There is a lot of white people who have to take plea deals too, but it is disproportionate to the amount of black men that are forced to take plea deals on shit they never did because there is no lawyer to get them out of it. And if they go to court, they don't have the money for a lawyer and they end up getting a longer sentence. Because the system is set up against the poor. But the problem comes is that the POC are disproportionately poor. And that is how you get systemic racism. That's how that works. So I forget what the percentage should be. If you took the percentage of whites compared to the population of whites, you can calculate what the percentage of POC in prison should be. And it is, I haven't checked lately, so my numbers may be wrong, but it's about 4 times as much as what it should be. That is called systemic racism. That right there. It's set up to not look racist. It's set up to be classist. And it inadvertently ends up being racist. That's what systemic racism is. People don't get that. I'm like, it's not a hard concept, you fucking idiot. That's what it is. And the thing is that the cities that you live in don't do anything to fix that. What district schools get the least amount of resources, the least amount of funding, for absolutely no good reason? There's not a reason. There's no reason, no rational logic reason that the lower income parts of towns get less shit. The lower income. So it's set up to be classist, which is the American way. But the majority of the people with low income, the vast majority, are POC. So what is classist ends up being racist. And then they're like, no, it's not. Bitch, yes, it is. There's no reason why they should have subpar education simply because of where they live. It's ridiculous. Well, that's why I said POC. Because it happens to Mexicans up here all the time. And this is what kills me. And I've seen this in South Carolina. In fact, I got in trouble in South Carolina, up in Richburg. One of the parents, I don't even know why I was at the fucking school. But there was some, they looked Mexican, but I can't be sure. They could have been South American. But we have a large Mexican population up there. And these three Mexican kids were talking Spanish to each other. And one of the parents was like, why don't you speak English? And you could tell, well, they probably couldn't because they were idiots. You could tell they haven't been here long. And I literally stuck my head in my window. I was like, why do you think they're at school? You lunatic. Oh, wait, I'm not on TikTok. I was like, why the fuck do you think they're at school, you fucking lunatic? Nobody in the school speaks Spanish. Why the fuck do you think they're there? Like, God, people, oh my God. I'm American, but Americans are so fucking stupid as a whole. It's no wonder people don't, when they do those surveys in other countries, of people don't want us over there. I'm not talking about the ones in war. I'm talking about on vacation. Like, we're so fucking stupid. It's unreal. Oh, I wish I'd have been there, Johnny. Because I speak both. I speak plenty enough Spanish to be able to cuss out the white person and tell the whoever's speaking Spanish don't put up with that shit. I wish one of those Walmart Karens would be there when I was there and somebody film it, because I don't care. That's exactly right. Yeah. No, we don't mind Russian. The whites of America. If you're white saying it. Now, if you even had a tan and you said it, number one, they wouldn't know it was Russian. But if y'all even had a tan, somebody would say something. And the complete denial that this country does not have a national language and that this country was not founded on Christianity, the complete denial about that by the right just floors me. I'm like, y'all really just skipped history. Y'all even skipped the racist history that they teach in school. You just skipped it completely. I never forget. And now, before I tell y'all this story, keep in mind, I understand what I experienced was just a drop in the bucket. Okay? but it's a drop more than any other white person I know has had to deal with. Okay, so my friend Letty was from Mexico, and she needed to drive to the bottom right corner of Ohio to get a motorcycle that they bought online. At that time, I was younger and I tanned and I had my brown hair. And so, if you're stupid, you would assume I was some kind of a Latino seeing me walk around with Letty. Now, Letty was way shorter than me. Like, her head came to about here. So we were good until we got out of South Carolina, right? And we were in Letty's truck. So, like, the navigator is in Spanish and the music is in Spanish because I didn't mind. It's fine. I learned all about that and my affinity for that when I lived in South Florida because I was only around Spanish people. Hispanics, whatever, Latino. I don't know the right word. So we were fine until we got out of South Carolina. And then we stopped at a rest stop in, it's going that way. I don't know, one of them white states up there. And so Letty would speak Spanglish to me a lot. And to someone who's not familiar with Latinos, it just sounds Spanish. And we went, I was pumping the gas, and Letty went into the store. And then when I got finished pumping the gas, I wanted to go in and pee and get my stuff, give me some drinks or stuff. And when we're walking around, I notice for the first time in my life, because I'm white, we're being looked at. Letty is oblivious. She doesn't understand. She's in her own world. She's oblivious. And I'm like, these motherfuckers think both of us are Spanish. So I'm not going to say anything. When I tell you I started speaking only Spanish, I didn't want them to think I knew English. Nobody said anything out loud, but we was getting looked at. I'm sure when we left, they had something to say. But then we got to Ohio. Oh, my God. I don't know what's going on with the southeastern part of the state of Ohio. But when I tell you that place is scary white, even the dishwashers had red hair and blue eyes. This is how white this fucking area is. I'm in the southeastern corner of Ohio. So when we finally get there, we are legitimately hungry. We stop at a restaurant called Peaches. Wait a minute, let me finish my story. I ain't never been to Michigan. So before we go pick up the motorcycle, we decide to stop at a restaurant called Peaches. It wasn't busy. And when I first walk in, there's a few people over here. It's really dead. And the lady comes up to me and she's like, two? And I just nodded. I mean, I was tired. This bitch took us to the back of the restaurant. The only other person sitting in that section was a black businessman. Like the back section where there's like a division, where you take parties. Where you take parties. We are separate from the rest of the restaurant. And I sat down, me being white, it took me a minute, and I was like, and I'm looking around. There's a black businessman. You can tell that he's lived in Ohio for a while because he's just looking at his paper like he already used to the racism. And I looked that way, and there's several, I'd say 3 to 5 white tables over on the rest of the restaurant. And so then I'm looking at my menu, but really I'm looking all around. And that's when I notice that everyone's looking at us. Because we were good looking. So keep in mind, we look like 2 good looking Latina ladies. Everyone was looking though. And they were all blonde haired and blue eyed or red haired and blue eyed. And then the back of the kitchen was open. And the red headed, blue eyed, freckled dishwasher was staring. And then I saw her, the waitress. I saw her come over. And I paid attention to her micro expressions when she was talking to the lady. And then when she turned and completely changed her face to come walk over to the table. And I was like, maybe I'm being paranoid, you know? So we order our drinks, we order our food, and they bring our drinks back. And Letty starts to pick it up, and I set it back down, and I was like, I need 2 straws. And the lady was like, okay. She hands us the straws, and I said, Letty, I think something's going on here, so I want you to put your straw in your drink just like this. So you go in from the side and then put it down in case anything's in the top of the glass. And I sipped a little bit. And we're watching, and we keep, even the cooks are coming over and looking through the little thing where they put the plates to be picked up. Even they came to look. And I was like, no way in hell I'm eating this food. No way in hell. Letty, God bless her, is oblivious. And I leaned over to Letty in Spanish, and I was like, we can't eat here. And she was like, what are you talking about? I was like, do you not recognize where we're sitting? And Letty was like, she looked over, and then she's seeing the one black man, and she looks over. She was in her own world. And she's like, Denny, why did they sit us over here? I was like, because you're less than. They assume that I'm Spanish, too. And they have us over here. I was like, we can't eat this food, and stop eating your drink. And by then, the lady comes with our food, and I looked right up at that woman. I was like, I am not eating food served to me from a racist. And her face changed because she for real thought we could only speak Spanish. I said, I will not be eating anything. So you can take this back with whatever spit or jizz is on this food, and you can kiss my brown ass. And I got Letty up, and we walked right out of there. And now that was me experiencing this much racism. I cannot possibly fathom what life is like for any POC in America. If you don't live in a neighborhood of your own people. And by your own people, I mean like the Bronx, Southern Florida, with the Latino people. If you don't, there's a reason why anyone who's not white tries to stay with their own flow of people. And by their own people, I don't mean necessarily colored ones. Like, you can go into the Bronx or the Queens, or you can go to parts of Philly, and you have brown folks, and then you have the people that happen to be white. They mingle together. I cannot imagine being a POC trying to navigate in this country outside of what is familiar to you. I can't imagine it. I was so pissed off of half of a drop of racism that I experienced. I would be in jail. I would be one of those extremist POC people who like be doing like Malcolm X type shit. Like, no, I would be violent. April, I was in a very good area. Now, the town is notoriously bad. It's called Lake Worth. People call it Lake Worth Less. And you're probably going to get robbed or something. But the people, not on the white side of town, the white was north. So the streets were in alphabetical order. If you go on north, that's white people. You don't want to go over there. But you go on the south, A, B, C, D, E, F, G street, and not only were the Latinos mixed in there and the Afro-Latinos mixed in there, but I was like one of the white people over there. So there are sections. No, I don't remember what town, and I never want to go back. There are sections where the people mix enough, or like the Bronx, you can get all kinds of different nationalities in the Bronx. Like where I lived, I had Across the street was Dominican Republic. I had a Brazilian beside me. I had Mexicans on this side or Ecuadorian. I don't God. It's bad. I don't remember. No, it's Mexicans. And then we had Ecuadorian, Honduran, Colombian. We had so many different types of Latinos, and then it was me, just me and my brother. But they in that area, the people were fine. If you spoke Spanish, you were fine. Um, the only people that were really persecuted down there, which I didn't, that's how I ended up having my voodoo experiences. Everybody was still racist against the Haitians. I didn't understand why. I've never met a kinder people than the Haitians in my life. And these are like first generation Haitians. I've never met a kinder group of people in my life. But they had to be wary of everybody, not just white folks. There were no regular black folks in Lake Worth, Florida. I don't know what happened. There's none there. I guess American black folks. Everybody was always mean to the Haitians, and I didn't understand why. They were the nicest motherfuckers I've ever met. And they usually had very little, and they would give you whatever it was that they had. So I never understood the why all the different races would single out the Haitians. I've just never understood it. And their food is, I couldn't eat their food because I'm allergic to goat meat. Now, that's how you know my ass ain't got no African DNA. It's the only thing on the planet I'm allergic to. The protein in goat meat and any of its relatives. So I know I'm not from Africa because half of the antelopes are related to the goats. So my ass would have just been dead. I don't know where it came from, but it wasn't Africa. My ass didn't evolve until later. No, just goat meat. I drink goat milk and eat goat cheese all day long. Love it. Hey, Amy. But I can't eat goat meat. Like, it's violent. My reaction to goat meat is violent. And I hate it because I like it. Part of my family is Greek. Do you know how much goat Greeks eat? But they always had to make chicken for Jennifer. Because of my allergy to goat meat. It made me mad. Goat meat tastes good. I love it. So you could do. I like goats as pets too, but yeah, I'm allergic to goat meat. The only thing on the planet. Woman, you've seen me. I'm whiter than weird. No, I've had my DNA run, so I know. Oh, hey, Amy. You always have to remind me. I'm sorry. We're doing good. It's a year in, and have you gotten a horizontal cage for your disabled gray yet? Oh, you can't eat bacon? What cursed thing are you paying for in this lifetime that you can't eat meat candy? Have you gotten a horizontal floor cage for your gray yet? Hold on, I'm waiting to hear from Amy. Yeah, what I did was, what I was going to suggest to you before because of his little problem is I got a long, okay, they make long wire rabbit cages. So they're long because he doesn't utilize all that space. You get a long cage that goes on the floor. And he's way more likely he doesn't have the problem. He can get in and out without your help. He gets more secure. Yeah, it's like a long, but it's not the ones with the plastic bottom. That's not going to help him. You need the long, they're ugly, the long floor rabbit cages that go on the floor. So you would think it would bother them not to have that height, but it doesn't. And it's so much easier for him to get in and out of his space. So when he feels insecure, he can hobble his way back into his cage. And also, one thing you could try on one end is to create like if you took a cylinder and you cut it in half, like so it'll hump sitting on the ground, cover it in something he can grab onto, like you know, like the fake green carpet, so that he's got this long hump thing. It's up some, so it's going to give him the feeling of a perch, which will make him feel more secure, even though, you know, it's kind of difficult to perch when you're bummed like that. Stuff like that. That's what I had to do with this dude. But his issue was not only did he not use his cage, but he would not come out. And so I got the big long cage that goes on the bottom, and I would hang his toys. The fact that he couldn't be up high really did not bother him. And he started coming out way more often. Right. So when you make the little humps, he gives him the effect of the perch. So what I did, well, actually, what I did for a lady who had a bird like yours was, if you take a long cylinder shape, right? So it can be wood, whatever. You take a longer cylinder shape and you cut it in fours, right? So one side of it's going to be a right angle. So it will, if you take one of those and lay it across the floor of the cage, it'll come up like a solid block like this, right? So you have the round part and then it gets the right angle right here. So you leave the right angle uncovered because his little toe is going to come over the front. And then you use that fake carpet shit for the back half or whatever you want to use so that he can get grip. And he will crawl up on the hump and his feet will hang over. And so he'll feel like he's perching, which is how they want to feel secure. And so he can stay in that type of situation for a long time because it puts way more stress and nervousness with his bum leg. Now the problem with my rescue is that he can't have a cage because of his issues. He is so, what about being hand insecure? Okay, so I'm going to give you mine. You cannot push that. So what I learned, it took me about 8 months before I figured out what Satan bird, his weakness is pistachios. That's his weakness. I still can't get him to step up on me. It's been a year without forcing him to step up. I can only touch his beak. That's as far as we've come. He'll lean forward with his beak, and I'll honk it. But he will take pistachios. Now, he's a food whore, so he will take any people food out of your hands, but I didn't want to give him a fatty liver. So he will take pistachios out of my hand. But I've had grays before. So the first thing you have to do is get his living arrangement changed. The less stress he is, the easier it is for him to learn. Because he's not in pain, he's not sore. Having a gray not want to cooperate is normal. It's not like there's no other bird that can prepare you for a gray. It's like having a emotionally abused toddler. So the one thing yours is not doing that mine is doing is Satan full on attacks me like a pit bull. We just stopped doing that. He just stopped doing that. And I mean claws out, beak, wings. Like I have puncture wounds from his feet. Not to mention needing stitches, which I did not go get. This is the last scar he got. Is right here. I don't know if you can see it, but he caught me right here. We finally got through that, and it was a year. But Satan's problem is that he becomes that aggressive when he has a cage. I tried to break him of it. It's not cage aggression. It's far beyond that because he has some issues. So now he can't have a cage. Everything has to be open air. He has a perch, a large parrot play stand, which is basically a cage without the cage. And right now he's in parrot boot camp. So if I go into a room, I drag that stand with me. He cannot escape me. Even if I have to Stockholm syndrome him, we're going to be best friends. He's been given back 3 times. I asked the lady, originally I asked them about how long, and the lady was like, after 3 months, people bring him back. Well, I found out after 3 months why, and that's because he switches up on you and he attacks you like a rabid pit bull. So yeah, he's been traumatized. Not by the original owners. Now, the original owners were wrong for buying a baby gray when they were in their 60s. That was wrong. Gray shouldn't be a pet, period. But anyway, he's been traumatized from their deaths and then the 3 placements that didn't work out afterwards. He wasn't cared for correctly after a death. You have to do very serious things anyway. So that's what I'm dealing with now. So the only way I stopped him from attacking me with a pit bull was I finally just had to fight back. Now, granted, I did not whack that bird with the human's power. But I had to fight back because then he was like, oh my God, what just happened? You switched up on me. It was like a bully. It was like a bully. So now he doesn't fight me anymore. Now we're on better terms. And now I don't care if I go to piss. I will roll that play stand into that bedroom where my bathroom is. So he understands he cannot go anywhere unless he's with me. And on top of that, he wants to bond a mate pair with my kid. Yeah, he's got issues too. Poor Nemo. Satan tries to pair bond with my kid. Well, my kid is 21, but they are not interested in a parrot that needs that much attention for that many years. So, had they wanted to take that on, I would have went ahead and let him bond with him. But no, his wings had to be cut. I couldn't risk him. He'll kill himself going outside. So whether people like it or not, his wings absolutely had to be clipped. It was getting ridiculous. He would fly and attack my face. I would be walking in a different room, and he would take flight and maul me like the movie The Birds. So, no. Those wings came off. When you have a flying pit bull coming at you, you got to clip those wings. Ours was 3 years too. He was misplaced 3 years too. But yeah, so he got his wings clipped. When you have it would be like if you gave a chihuahua that could hurt you wings. Like he would come at me like a fucking rabid eagle. So anyway, he's not flying anywhere. Now, I will let this year's flight wings come in to give him a check. But if he tries to do that again, I'll clip him again. And I'm the last person who wants to clip a bird's wings. I do not enjoy that. But he was mauling me from the air. It would be like kamikaze. Like, I don't know what... He has issues. And, well, he's really, really smart. But I think what it is grays have personalities that vary like people. And I think what I got here... Oh, I react. Satan is 6. Is I got a bird who was naturally an asshole who then got traumatized. That's what I'm dealing with. I can deal with someone who's an asshole as just a personality trait. But this was an asshole who then got traumatized. So he turned into a psychopath. But I don't care. I'm not going to give up. I don't know what my deal is. JoJo got me on grays like this. Because they're so mysterious. It's not like having a pet. It's like having an alien. It's like having a toddler alien in your house. 60, 70 years? Oh, yeah, no. Oh, no. No. We've already went through the hormone thing. People are like, it's hormones. Bitch, no, it isn't. Get down. Get off my bed. Go to bed. No, it wasn't hormones. I wish it had been hormones. I wish it had been a season change. I did everything. Everything that you can find in. Get off my bed! Everything that you can find in print or in a video or by one of these YouTube pet bird gurus or one of the TikTok bird gurus. I've tried the nice leftist way. I've tried the professional way. I've tried the zookeeper way. And now we're going to try my way. But none of those ways work. So we're trying my way. It's never failed before. But I literally wanted to try every other way because my way is probably, a lot of people wouldn't consider it the best way. But I tried all the other nice ways. And I tried the politically correct ways. And so now I'm going back to my way. And my way is what I've seen in nature documentaries. It works with dogs. That's why I have such good dogs and why I can train anybody's dog. I'm like that dog whisperer dude or the dog king guy that wears the shades. I can train any dog. I don't care if they're sad, aggressive, skittish. And it's because I grew up watching how dogs talk to each other. So, force love on him. I do that too. So what I started doing when I finally broke down and fought back was I did what I watched other grays do when they got attacked by one of their gray people, one of the other parrots. And it worked. And so I'm like, I'm just going to keep watching and I'm going to act accordingly. So what I'm doing now is forcing him into a flock. That's the stage I'm in now. I probably got him saved somewhere. But if you dig into the internet and look at African, you have to put in the Congo. No, African gray parrots in the wild. So that's what you want to look for, Amy, on YouTube. And sometimes I had to put it in the main search engine like Google and then hit videos so it would give me a list because I don't think all of them were on YouTube. But African gray parrots in the wild, and click on videos and you'll be able to find some. They don't put up with each other's shit like that. They don't put up with that from each other at all. And so now what I'm doing him is I'm forcing him into our flock. You know, like I was listening to all these other people and they're like, you can't discipline birds. You just have to work around them. That's not how they deal with each other. They discipline each other real quick. They don't put up with that shit from each other. So I just started copying what they were doing. Yeah, you will love me and you will like it. I just started copying how they handled fights with each other. And it sure did make an instant change. So yeah, now I'm doing the forced flock. So I'm not forcing him to step up. I'm not forcing him to touch me. I'm not doing any of that. I'm forcing him to be with the group. So when I'm in a room, all the other critters are in the room. When I move rooms, everybody move rooms with me. You don't have a choice. That's not an option. You're coming in here. So when I go to take a shower, he's mortified of showers. Too bad. You're taking a shower too. And the first time I put him in the shower, you would have thought that I was ripping his entrails out of his body. He was so petrified. And if I'd have got that on film, they'd been like, I'm going to call the ASPCA. And I'm like, call them. You would have thought his entrails were becoming his extrails, and he wasn't even in the water flow. His his perch is way over there in the corner. If he wouldn't have panicked and flew down, he wouldn't have got wet. He just freaked out. I swear I'm thinking about it, Sunflower, later. Now he doesn't freak out. But he's still like, he hasn't got to where he likes it yet. Now he just sits in there and tolerates it like, bitch. And I'm like, okay, shower's over, let's go. Yeah, because by treating him the way I'm watching and learning how they treat each other is the most progress I've made in the entire year that I've had the damn thing. Yeah, they are not. Grays should never have been pets. They're too intelligent. They should never be pets. Ever. There is no bird that will prepare you for an African gray. There's no workup bird to an African gray. There is none. If you want to know what can give you some idea of an African gray is to have an ornery toddler. That's to how to prepare for an African gray. Have an ornery toddler that says no to everything. Then you'll be prepared for an African gray. They should never be pets. Their level of intelligence is creepy. And because of their level of intelligence, they suffer human-like trauma, emotional trauma and stuff. And that's where you have the problems. They get OCD. He didn't rip out his feathers because he was still being mistreated. He continued pulling out his feathers because he had OCD. I literally had to put that collar on him in order to basically force him to give up his OCD habit. That's the only reason he has hair on his chest now. Yeah, they should never, ever, 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 ever be pets. Cockatoos, the main problems you see cockatoos ripping their feathers out is because cockatoos should never be alone. Ever. Ever. They are a hypersocial bird. If you don't plan on having your cockatoo with you 24/7 or having more than one cockatoo that can have a free fly space in your house, you shouldn't get one. But not saying that cockatoos are stupid, but they're nothing compared in intelligence to a gray. Yeah. The reason, okay, the gray that I had, JoJo, first, when I knew that that bird was going to be left to me, I spent a year and a half. I would come over to my aunt's house to see the bird. At night, when she was calm, I would sit down by her cage. I would read from books. I would show her videos. My aunt started allowing me to change out her food and water bowls so that when the day happened and my aunt passed away, the transition would not be so bad for JoJo. And I did a beautiful job. Beautiful. Because they're so neophobic, you have to know when to force it, when to force a new environment, and when not to. And what I had to do was to balance out losing her owner with getting in a new place to live. And my aunt really shouldn't have had birds. She loved JoJo, but JoJo almost never got out of the cage. So when JoJo came to my house, JoJo's cage was open from the jump. So it just takes time, band girl at heart. But you can also just give the bird to a rescue. There are rescues that take care of that situation for you. So JoJo was so preoccupied with this new freedom that she didn't have time to realize she was in a new place. And that's how I prevented JoJo from having mental issues when her owner died. So I got to know JoJo for a good year before I got JoJo. Hey, Rotten Bones. So what I'm thinking is this year will be the year that I actually make progress with Satan. Because we've had a year, well, a year in April, I think. April or May, we'll have a year of being around each other. Oh, hey, Rotten Hat. So I think I'll make more progress this year than I did last year. Because I spent a lot of time with JoJo before they ever came into my possession. And I didn't have that choice with Satan. Like 2 days ago, Satan actually started answering me back for the first time ever. I'd have a bird in my damn truck. Do you recommend a portable perch for him? So for him, is his foot gone or is it just crippled, screwed up? I don't remember. Remind me, Amy, because then it depends on what it is. It depends on my suggestion. Crippled, yeah, he's the one with it's curled up. So when it comes to portable perches, I would not, especially if you have a builder in your family, and Pimp Walks, yeah, I remember him. Look at the way they set up. So they have things when you look them up, you want to look for parrot place stand, okay? It's called a parrot place stand. You want to look at the bottom structure of the place stand because getting him, it comes with a lot of perchy things. You might have to do where you just buy the place stand for the bottom, catch one on sale, but they're fluted, okay? So this is so that he cannot escape, all right? Unless he flies. If he's free flying, it might be more difficult, but if he's not a big flyer, the bottoms are fluted, and so you can make a play area with the base by improvising with your own, like the type of perch I told you to make with the half cylinder. You can improvise, and that one you can pull around to other rooms, or you can get literally anything else and adapt it with things that would serve as flutes to keep him in. So that's why I say go look at a rolling play stand at the construction, and then you could literally adapt anything that rolls, whether it was like any kind of rolling shelf or anything. You can adjust it and adapt it to be a portable thing. He doesn't really care. He's not going to approach a guest, but he does not go. He does not go for anybody the way he goes for me. I don't need a spell to have a psychic connection with my cat, but I should try it with the bird. Anyway, so yeah, look at the portable, just look up parrot play stands. You'll see the little ones for little birds, and then you'll see like a metal one that's between $180 and $200. And they're metal and they roll and they have the fluted sides. Look at that design. Think of what you have in your home that rolls already, or build something and adapt to it. So then you can roll him into different rooms with you. You can force him there. That's what this one's dealing with. He's forced. Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's a good idea. I should try one on him. Random question. Glamour magic does not make you look like someone else. Yeah, you roll him like away. No, it does not make you look like someone else. It makes you attractive, no matter what you look like. It makes other people attracted to you. Because you remember, it doesn't change what you look like. You just become attractive to people. Uh, Liar. So did I. So did I. I had a community tank. Betas only need X amount of space to live. The blue one lived in one side of the tank, and the red one lived in the other side of the tank. And they both knew where the invisible division line was. So if this guy got too close to the imaginary line, the other one would come up, and there'd be like 3 inches between them, and they would like face off at their invisible territory line, and then go on about their business. And the reason I did that experiment was because there are no walls in nature. These fish live with each other all the time, so I knew they had to be X amount of space. And from what I learned from nature programs, it's only about somewhere around the 10-gallon area, not depth, but area. So if they have enough room for their natural territorial area, you can put another one in there and they don't fight. Oh, that's neat about the geckos. I didn't know that about geckos. But I did with the betas. I had a blue one in one side. It was a 50-gallon long. But I think I've seen somebody do it in 20-gallon long. But I had a 50-gallon or 55, whatever. But it's not the depth, it's the length. Oh, well, then that's some magic shit you doing. My betas just stayed on either side of their tank. And that sounds about right, Sunflower, because the shallowness of the tank didn't matter. It was like the square footage. But I liked it because they'd get. What was funny is when one of them got too close to their invisible boundary. Emus, I like emus. They're crazy. If you raise them yourself. You don't want an angry foreign emu. Yeah, they would always just. It was pretty to watch them flare up on their imaginary, you know, property line. Nobody would cross over. It's just like I live in a. I've been thinking about an axolotl because I found out something else about them that biologically is really cool. I live in a trailer park, a little one. There's like 8 trailers here. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 7. And the dogs also know their invisible lines. Those water frogs are funny. And so the dogs will get to the edge of their invisible lines and bark at each other. Yeah, I found out some new cool biological facts about axolotls, but I literally just thought about them. Like, I haven't read, I don't know anything about them yet to be doing that. I feel like as an Australian, I feel like the expert on emus and they are mean animals. I have seen, here, we don't have them wild, but I have only met one mean farm emu, pet emu, which whatever we want to call them. So altogether, the emus that I've met personally in my lifetime, because of where I live and the work I used to do back then, I have met 6 or 7 emus. But only one emu had a problem. Only one emu was the meanie that would do the drumming and try to peck my head off. All the other emus I've ever met were either really nosy and nice, or they tried to eat your hair, or they were like, "Where's my food? Why are you coming up to me without my food?" But I've only had one that was an asshole. And she was just like, die. No matter who it was, she was like, bitch, die. Couldn't get that hooker on a trailer for nothing. I finally had to use myself as bait. She got so mad that she followed me into the trailer. I had a pygmy goat too. He was great. Yes, Karen Emu. That's how this emu was, but she didn't slack up. She really wanted to fuck my life up. But, I mean, do you know what people forget? It's weird. People forget that there is a species of that bird in South America. It's called a rhea. There's a rhea that lives in South Carolina that's also South Carolina, South America, that is related. It's the same family as ostriches and emus. And it lives in South America, and it's called a rhea, R-H-E-A, and people forget they exist. Casseroys can be horrible. That's the difference. Casseroys can be horrible. But, I mean, it's a walking dinosaur, so why... what I've seen is the dumb people are the ones that get effed up by a cassowary. The fucking dumb people. Why people think that... Have you seen its feet? Why would you try to approach something like that? Oh, opossums are my favorite animals. Yeah. Most Americans don't even know a rhea exists, Joni. Or Johnny. They don't even know it exists. Have you seen the kangaroo? Those things are terrifying. Well, yeah, they are rotten, but here's the problem. Here's what people don't understand about kangaroos. I'm going to explain it. The reason there's a kangaroo problem is because they killed off all the animals that ate kangaroos. Kangaroos is the Australian equivalent to a white-tailed deer. They're literally the same. It's just over in Australia, it looked like a kangaroo. That's who filled that slot, was the kangaroos. And wallabies. That's their deer. And they killed off everything that eats the deer. But it's the nature's equivalent. Even in their eating habits and everything else. It's the Australian version of a deer. And I don't know if y'all know, but the Australian settlers were idiots. And they killed off everything that eats the kangaroos. All right, Jennifer, I'm getting close to getting off of here. Not the dingoes. I'm talking about there were... Let me find my other phone. I can't find my other phone. Y'all had the equivalent of wolves. You had the equivalent of what a big cat is. And they were killed off. They were killed off. There's one marsupial relative of the marsupial version of the big cat family, and I do believe it is still in Tasmania. I believe it's still in Tasmania. But y'all still has some equivalents of the large predators that got killed off, not just the dingo. All right, Amy. Actually, no, not just the Tasmanian devil. They actually got the first footage of a legit thylacine. And I'm a cynic, but it wasn't on the mainland of Australia. Yeah, Tasmanian tigers took out a lot, but the first legitimate footage, and I'm a critic. I'm cynical. That's a fucking Tasmanian tiger. It's the not the close up trail footage. That is not a Tasmanian tiger. Those people no. It was the you can see it. You know how if you're into the thylacine, that's actually true. Sunflower lady. We'll get to that. They had that experience more than once. Anyway, if you've ever been into the thylacine, they have a very distinguished gait because of their structure, and their tail is very stiff, like the kangaroos. So if you see a thylacine walking across an area versus one of the transplanted jackals or foxes, sorry, foxes, huge difference in size and in gait and in coloring, but mostly the gait. And I looked at that, I must have watched that video 27 times. And I was like, that is a fucking thylacine. And I'm good. I'm glad he couldn't find it again. I'm glad he couldn't. Because they I don't know how many times we thought something was extinct until it showed up 50 years later. So I'm glad that he couldn't find it again. Because if there's still one now, then that means there's at least one or two breeding pairs. And I hope that they find each other. The dingo turning into, yes, so any wild dogs that you leave out in an independent population, they won't turn exactly into dingoes, but I know what he's talking about. They all default back to that same structure. So there is a setup for wild canids. And it's the same color range and form as a dingo. And I don't know if y'all pay attention to this because, I'm the big nerdy nerd. But what they're finding now that they can go deeper into DNA and genomes, there is they need to do a couple more tests, and they're almost positive that there is an intermediary between wolves and domestic dogs. Because they're starting to compare deeper DNA dives into all the different wild dog species. I don't think y'all understand how many different kinds of wild dog species there are across the globe. And there seems to be a missing link between Canis lupus, which is the timber wolf, and Canis familiaris. And that's why the dingo is coming back into play, and the New Guinea singing dog is coming back into play as models, control models. Because if you let Canis familiaris, that's our dogs, if you leave them, I don't care which ones you leave out in the wild, if you leave them out there long enough, over a shitload of generations, they all turn back into the same game plan, which is any version from black to the dingo color and a little bit paler. People don't know about Carolina dogs either. And the same setup. You have the pointed ear, you have the long snout, you have the tail that's thin at first and then makes kind of like a flag-ish kind of thing. Same form. I don't care if you leave a Chihuahua and a Great Dane out there. If you leave them out there long enough, they all revert back because those are the successful traits. So the puppies without those die. And the puppies that inherit those successful traits for what you need to survive in the wild, they live to reproduce. And you come back to the same body plan. But what they notice is this body plan over time never goes back to the wolf body plan. That's the difference. So they were like, wait a minute. All this time, we thought that dingoes were maybe domestic dogs that got loose. But if they're all defaulting back to this similar structure, then the math ain't mathin'. They haven't been there long enough. I've checked up on the Chernobyl dogs, by the way. They're halfway there, Sunflower Lady. They're about halfway there with that default shape. But so now they're pulling back the New Guinea singing dog DNA and the dingo DNA now that they're able to have the equipment to dig deeper. And what they're finding is that there's a link missing. another ancestor. So they're saying that it's not the wolves that we pulled from. It's an intermediate. It's another canid species, which by now, uh, we have, because the thing is it's the same thing pulled from on each ancient culture. So in other words, I don't know if y'all know what a Basenji dog is, but Basenjis have the same body plan but smaller, because that is the dog that evolved naturally in Africa for assisting hunters in the jungle. So they have a smaller structure, and their tails aren't curled as tightly in the wild state, because they are smaller and nimbler through the woods. So it's a smaller version. The Carolina dog is one. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the Carolina dog, but in oh, I can't remember the name of this dog species. There's another wild dog species in South America. There's a couple actually. But they are on the same body plan, except their ears are a little bit curved. You can go look up Carolina dog. And so now that we can deep dive in DNA, somebody's been deep diving in the dog DNA. And so what I'm saying is the intermediary that we pulled from was not, what the evidence is showing is it was not directly the timber wolf. So there was a species between timber wolf and canine. And that's what they're trying to dig out of these. They're kind of reverse engineering from the New Guinea singing dog and the dingo. Good grief, Mo. I'm fixing to leave too. But I thought that was interesting. Oh, another species that's on the, another dog breed, that they pull from because they realized it after they got the inkling about the dingo and the New Guinea singing dog. Contrary to that Chinese dog eating festival, dog meat has been eaten for thousands of years over in China. There's a breed of dog that they use for it. And the ancestors, the old folk say, this was a dog that was native to Asia for a long, long time. And so this food breed dog, that I can't pronounce the name of, looks like a smaller version of a dingo. So they're even pulling from that one. That literally looks like you shrunk a dingo. And that's what the food breed of dog is. And then, so they started, I have 8 dog in South Florida. It's good. So, what was I saying? So they're pulling from them too. Cat is good too. But they pulled from them too because they were like, wait a minute. So dog is good. Cat is good. But guinea pig? I would raise my own guinea pigs just to have guinea pig again. It is delicious. And I like guinea pigs as a pet. But that is one of the most delicious critters that ever was invented. I don't even know how it tastes that good. I can't even tell you what it tastes like. Guinea pig is off the chain. They have them, if you go to the Festival de Miami, not the, no, they don't taste like chicken. You just know you're eating a meat. I don't know what to tell you. Because it's always flavored. There's an Asian fellow that cooked them at his restaurant in the back, and he would bring it to us, so it had different flavorings on it. But anyways, guinea pig is awesome. So if you go to festival to Miami, and not the people, the vendors that paid to be there, but in the little side alleys, you'll have the poor folks selling street food so they can get their money too. And that's where you'll find guinea pigs and rat. Rat is good, but guinea pigs is off the chain. Alligator's good too. It's a very clean tasting the reptiles. So alligator, snake. It's a very clean white meat. People compare it to chicken, but I don't think it tastes like chicken. It has the texture of between fish and chicken. I think I would think it was some. You know how some sea fish don't taste like fish, like a swordfish and permit. There's some sea fish that don't taste like fish. They didn't cook it right. It was chewy. If you had alligator or crocodile, you would be like, "Oh, what kind of fish is this?" So reptile, alligator, crocodile, snake, and amphibian frogs. Yes, sunflower lady, that kind of texture. Um, they taste good. Uh, I can only tell you that tarantula does taste a lot like their relatives crabs. Nutria rat, yes. Nutria rats are good. But see, here's the thing. What I always thought was weird. Okay, so not my mom, but my granny, and then later, the Mexicans that I worked with. Americans have this habit of throwing away half the meat on an animal, which I don't understand. That has to be some kind of European thing that we inherited, which I don't do. So when my granny made fish or frog legs, you gut the fish. Well, that's it. You don't take off the head. The same with frogs. The same with squirrels, rabbits. I don't know when Americans started. It has to be a European thing. It has to be. Because they cook the whole animal. They take the guts out, and then you drop the whole animal. You cook your snails, you won't get that bacteria. So I never understood why all my friends, if they ate those things, they could. I was like, what are you doing? There's a lot of meat on the rest of the animal. I don't understand what you're doing. And then I found out about the lie that we're told about carp. I was so mad. Do you know how many giant carp I've thrown back? Because in America, they say they're useless and they taste like mud. Do you know how many carp I threw back? Because all the rednecks told me it was a crap fish that tasted like mud. And then I watched a program. Do you know what that program was about? I'll tell you what that program was about. That program was about fishermen in all the South who secretly go out twice a week and fill their boats with carp. Then they drive to this one particular state, which I'm not going to tell you which one it is, that processes and buys the carp to ship to Asia, particularly China and Japan. And they make $5,000 per pickup truck load. Not truck, pickup truck. $5,000. Do you understand how fast I went back to go catch a carp out of Lake Wiley? It's fucking delicious. Especially, they talked about in the show, there's some cheek meat on the big-headed carp. It's a delicacy over there. There's nothing wrong with that fish's meat. It's good. And I thought to myself, I've probably thrown away $5,000 worth of carp in my lifetime freshwater fishing in the South. It's all a lie. It's a lie made up of rednecks. So by the time I got to South Florida, we were in Lake Worth, and they have a fishing pier in Lake Worth. And me coming out of South Carolina and not thinking like other people, I would see them catch these fish, but they weren't good eating fish, so they would either throw that fish back or they would chop it up in pieces and use it for bait. I was confused. What I've learned is a lot of times when you have been raised poor, you get confused when you see stuff like this. I didn't know that at the time. So I was confused. So I wanted to fish, cause, and I fished and I caught, at the time, I didn't know what fish I caught. But it was about this big. And it looked really meaty. And so I was like, that's enough for me. So I reeled up my fish and I unhooked it and I started to go. And one of the guys goes, where are you going with that jack? Tender is the flesh. It probably won't trigger me. Where are you going with that jack? I was like, home to eat it. Oh, I'm sorry. And they're like, you can't eat jack. And I was like, why? And they were like, it was not a good fish. And I was like, why? And he was like, well, you chop it up to find other fish. And I was like, but why? So he couldn't answer me. So I went home and I cleaned the fish, and I did notice it looked bloody. So I did cut its throat when I was there to let it bleed out, because some fish are really bleeders. And I cooked the fish up and it was fucking fine. There was nothing wrong with the fish. I don't understand. Now, I know there was poisonous ones, so I knew it wasn't poisonous. There was nothing wrong with that fish. I'm scared of Ohio now. I know what you're saying, but I'm still scared of Ohio. But another thing that I would catch a lot, and I would see people throw back, are needlefish. Needlefish are actually beautiful. They're like a dark, deep turquoise and green iridescent long fish with a lot of bones, and people hate it when they catch them. These are saltwater fish. And one time I was looking at one of the Haitians that worked back in the kitchen I told you about. They asked for the needlefish, and I was like, you eat these fish? And they're like, yes. So from there on out, if I went fishing, I would grab whatever needlefish that I've got and what they got, and I'd toss them in the freezer in the bait house for the Haitians. And then they would make fish soup. What the fuck is fish soup? I didn't know. But they would always bring me back some fish soup, some homemade Haitian fish soup. They would bring me some, which is like unheard of. And none of the people in the restaurant wanted the people I work with, because it smelled like fish. I'm like, bitch, what do you think fish? What do you mean it smells like fish? It's fucking fish. Like, I don't understand that concept. People are like, that smells like fish. Bitch, it's fish soup. What do you want it to smell like? Anyway, it was delicious. And, like, you had to pull bones out. But in the South, you do that too. So I didn't find that weird. Apparently, the majority of the population only eat fish in fillets. I find that very disturbing. I find that so disturbing that you waste so much of the fish because you want to fillet. So anyway, pulling the bones out of your food is not uncommon in the South at all. So while everybody else in that restaurant thought it was odd that I had to pull bones out of my mouth, our chicken sandwiches were like that. I don't know if you've ever got a chicken sandwich in the South. If it doesn't say filet, you're getting the whole piece of meat on bread. Because ain't nobody got time to be filleting and wasting shit because you don't want to pick bones out of your food. No, you get the whole thing on bread or a bun. Whether it's a thigh or a breast, it don't matter. So I found it weird. Keep it all and eat some of the thank you. Yeah, so I find that very weird here. I still find it weird that some people go their whole life. Okay, right, Joni? They go their whole life never having ate a food that they have to take a bone out of. That's weird. That's very removed from nature. I find that very weird. Pork chop sandwiches? No, you get a pork chop on bread, no matter which cut it is. You don't get to choose the cut. It's just whatever pork chop they have, they fry it and you get it on bread. So, right, Dominic? It's common here in America. It might be common in Europe. I don't know. But it's most common in white America, just so you know. Because whenever, I didn't get this when I was young, but whenever I got my sandwiches with the bones in, at the time, I was unaware. I wasn't raised racist. I know people like, oh, no, I wasn't raised that way. So my grandma cooked that way for the guys that helped her on the farm. And my grandma did not make substitutions for children. So when I was a little girl, I wanted to eat a fried chicken sandwich too. And when you're little, you gotta imagine baby meat. Hold on, let me get some tea. Y'all like this story. I really was innocent when I was little. Hold on, let me get my stuff. Let me go get some tea. Y'all will like this story. All right, I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna tell y'all this story before I go to bed. Because this is a fun story. I know some of y'all have seen my picture when I was a kid. So I'm going to tell you about my first time eating an actual chicken sandwich or pork chop sandwich in the South. So I was raised in rural South Carolina. And, hold on. Oh, wait, is everybody back for story time? Is everybody back for story time? Because I'm only going to say it once. Is everyone here that wants to hear the story time? Okay. So, I lived in rural South Carolina. So, my grandma's house was here. And then there was like, I'm guessing in retrospect, 3 acres through the pasture, and our house was here. So we always ate and did everything together. So I know Sunflower Lady's usually up. So we raised and butchered our own meat animals. So the only time that I had meat without a bone in it was when we had meatloaf or hamburgers or sausage. That's it. Everything else had a bone in it. Because, we were poor. So what I found out later is the fillets from the animals were sold because they're the highest, the most expensive cut. So never had a piece of meat that didn't have a bone in it. And my grandma, I spent all my time with my granny for reasons. And now my granny was from the mountains of West Virginia. They never owned slaves. They never were racist. There was also mountain black folk up there. I'm telling y'all this for a reason, so you won't be like, that was her slave. Oh, no. Anyway, when I was little, my grandma was already old when I was little. And these two old, but not as old as grandma, black guys, black men, would come up and use grandma's tractor to harvest her beans. She always grew beans and corn because grandma couldn't harvest it no more. And then she would pay them. Or they'd come up when they were planting them. This is how nice the world used to be, y'all. So whenever they would come up, I had known them my whole life. So whenever they came, it was that time of year to either harvest or plant. I would run out there. I'm like 4 or 5 years old. And I was always so happy with them. And they would keep me on the tractor. Wait, my granny be in the house. Okay, so and they would pick me up. I remember now they seemed so giant because I was so little. And the tractor seemed so giant. So it was a big deal, you know. Nothing ever happened around here. I was real excited. Anyway, they would always be there after they ate breakfast. And then they would stay through lunch. So my granny would always cook lunch. And she'd also always bring out water. I don't know if y'all know this, but you can use a watermelon for a water cooler. I didn't know if y'all know this. It's a southern trick. You can use a watermelon for your water cooler outside. Maybe one day I'll recreate it. Somebody really southern might know what I'm talking about. So she would always have us the watermelon water cooler. And every now and then she'd bring out more ice or whatever. And so they'd have beverage. But when it was time to eat, my granny was not going to fix me something different. That's not how she was. That's how I am. I won't fix something different. So when she made them a fried chicken sandwich, usually a fried chicken sandwich or a fried a pork chop sandwich on bread. And so I remember the first time I had one. She had gotten, it was a smaller, probably a thigh or something on my bread, and she'd wrap it up with out of the paper bags, and she'd bring them out there to us with I got Kool-Aid whenever she brought that out. She'd bring them sweet tea, and that's the time I got Kool-Aid. And so they would stop the tractor and get out and go sit under whatever tree was nearby. Now keep in mind, I'm like 4 or 5. And what do you do when you're 4 or 5? Well, you might not remember. You watch what the grown-ups are doing. And I remember first biting into my sandwich, and I looked up, and I'm watching them eat their sandwiches. And they take a big bite, and they pull the bone out. They would chew both ends, the soft parts of the bone. Then they throw the bone. And so that is how I learned to eat sandwiches with bones in them. And that's how cool my granny was. She knew she didn't have to show me because the men were there. So she knew the capacity of a young person's ability to learn. And there I would be sitting. Now, to me, when I think back, I'm like, that's such a great memory to have. Because I had pigtails down here, white as a fucking sheet of paper. Had on something frilly something, you know. And there was these two hard-working older black fellas. They had gray in their hair. One of them's eyes was already starting to turn white. And they showed me. So I remember, like, when I came to my first bone, I was, like, trying to eat the ends. And they're like, yeah, that's how you do it. You get the marrow out of it. That's what's good. That's why you chew the end. You need the marrow. And I was like, that's right. I still do that to this day. And I got it from them. So the ends of bones and the soft bones, like the rib bone, sometimes the end of the keel bone, the softer bones, you eat. The that you also, trailing on to another thing, you also eat the soft bones, the ends of the long bones, but you also eat shrimp tails. And this is what my grandma told me. I don't know if there's a lick of truth to it, but I am the only person in the family who still has their appendix. My granny would tell me when my mom would be like, "Don't eat that." My granny would go, "No, you let that child eat that. She won't ever have no problems with her appendix. She won't ever have to have that appendix taken out like them other boys of yours. You let her eat her bones and her tails." Do I know if they're stored in there and ground up? I don't know. But everybody in my family had to have their appendix taken out but me. And I have ate the ends of bones, soft bones, and shrimp tails and fish fins and fish heads. There's a lot of cartilage in a fish head. And yeah. And so I taught Jade that. I was like, this is why you do this. Because none of I got two brothers. My mom won't do it, and my dad wouldn't do it. But Granny still had her gallbladder, and I still got mine, and Jay's going to have hers. So I don't know if that was handed down, because that's coming from the mountain folk in Virginia. Okay? That my granny is from the Shobes in the high mountains of West Virginia. Mountain people. And so my granny had a lot of knowledge that I didn't realize still came from Appalachia until she was long gone and I was able to think back on it. And I was like, that's why she told me about all these damn plants when we'd be out. If you out in the woods and you get cut, you want to get this one right here. I always got told her rupture my brain. Yeah, she'd be like, you get this plant here and you crush it up and you put it on there. If you got a mosquito bite, now I know the mosquito bite was the plantains. She'd be like, this one, they aggravate and they always around in the summer. She's like, pull these leaves up, crush them up like this, and rub the juice. She's the one that told me about when you get, yeah, we did sun-brewed ice, sweet tea. One time, the way I learned about it was it happened. I got stung by a honeybee, while I was outside. We was out. You didn't go in. What are Band-Aids? We don't know. She has cigarettes. And I'm crying. She reaches down. She takes her finger. She makes sure to stab that thing's out. And she's like, sit down here. Sit down here, Jenny Boo. There's a weed called, that's common. It's a broadleaf weed called a plantain. Not the plantain that looks like a banana. You crush them up and you rub it on there. But anyway, she goes, sit down, Jenny Boo. She pulls out one of her cigarettes. She slides it open. She taps out some a tobacco in her hand. And I'm in the South, in South Carolina, so we got pines everywhere. She reached over there. She always had a little pocket knife on her. She stabbed at the pine tree to get it to bleed a little bit, and then she got it up on there, and she put that together. And then she called her dog Bessie over. I'm watching her now. She called Bessie over. Bessie's like a mutt. A mutt farm dog. She takes her finger. She goes into Bessie's mouth under her tongue, under it, and pulls out this really slimy dog slobber. She slapped it in her hand. She took it around. Mushed all that together. And she picked it up. She slapped it on the thing. And she said, all right, lay your leg out straight so it'll stick straight. Now, I'm using my granny's accent. Lay it out there straight so the stick's straight. Instantly stopped hurting, and I didn't have swelling that night. Since it was on there a couple hours. Cigarette tobacco, pine sap, and undertongue dog slobber. It's amazing. Now, when I think back now, I realize I had no idea my granny was from the mountains of West Virginia. I didn't find that out until, last year, for those that have been with me. Also, if we got a scrape, even if it was a really severe scrape, like not just a scrape from falling down on your knee, but something more severe, after it come in, if she caught it after it had been bleeding, she'd look at it. Her farm dog, Bessie, she'd set you out there with Bessie and be like, you let Bessie lick it till she's done. And you sit there, and you got to understand, this is rural South, so none of this is unusual behavior. None of this was unusual behavior. So you'd sit there and you'd be like, all right. Now, later, Bessie passed away, and Granny got a new dog, a blue tick hound dog. His name was Ahab. Well, Ahab was one of those dogs not really big on cleaning wounds. So when I had to scrape myself again, she said, well, Ahab's not too big on it, so we got to go get some honey. And I was like, okay. So this time, she got honey from the cabinet, and she smeared it on the scrape. And then she called Ahab over there, because Ahab would do the same thing. He just needed some encouragement. And she's like, only use honey. It won't get infected. And I was like, okay. So you learn so many. I hate that I lost her so young. But the more, as I got older, I was like, wait a minute. She taught me about this and this and this, and I just started writing it down. A lot of it, I would take one of them little tiny spiral notebooks with a pen. When I was older, I would take it out with me whenever I went out in the woods, because certain plants would trigger old memories. And I'd be like, oh, yeah. And I'd write it down. And it wasn't until later that I realized that I was making a spell book. Because what I learned later is some of that stuff didn't have a bit of medicinal value for what she was using it for. The more I wrote down, the more I learned about the medicinal value of certain things. Some of that shit didn't have no medicinal value in relation to what she used it on me for. And, yeah, well, I also did some weird things. I'll give you an example. I've already did the thing with the blood one time. Yeah, and if y'all are on here, you might have heard this story before, where I tell people, you're not born a witch. You can be hereditary, but unless you practice, you're not. Now, a lot of things clicked later. And no, she didn't do that. My granny had this great custom greenhouse that her sons had built for her. Like, now it's probably like the size of a small house. And it had a lot of stomach level tables to do all your workings on. And the underneath of all these tables was empty for storage. And I had compartmentalized a large section for the doodads that I found. But I can tell you exactly what the doodads were. So there was a section for cicada shells. There was a section for used praying mantis nests, egg things. There was a section for birds' eggshells. There was a section for empty spider egg sacks. There was a section for random bones I found. There was a section for what we now call witches' burrs, which were gumballs to me back then. There was a section for abnormally large sycamore tree leaves. There was a section for dead petrified animals that had dried out that you found. There was a section for whole dead insects and a separate section for beetle carapaces. Because a lot of times you only find the shiny things that cover the beetle's wings. And there was another section for unusual rocks that I found. They were section, oh, and bird's nests. Separate section for bird's nests. And they were piles, all separate from each other. Don't mix the piles. Snail shells. That's another one. All sectioned, separate from each other. And one time my mom told me, she said, I went in there one time and I said, she was talking to my grandma. She goes, Mama, what is all this? And my grandma was like, those are just Jenny Boo's collections. And my mom was like, well, look in your way. Do you want me to get rid of them? My grandma was like, no. She ain't hurt nothing. Just let her keep on with her collection. She knew the whole time. She knew the whole time. The whole time. She knew the whole time. So stuff started clicking together as once I got older. And I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait just a minute. She saw it the whole time. There's some other stuff that I can tell y'all about butchering time. Some stuff that I did where she was like, now, Jenny Boo, you can't do that in front of any of these other people. They'll say you're not right in the head. I know what you're doing. It's fine if I'm here. But you can't do that when the other people is here. And I was like, oh. Now that I look back on it, I'm like, yeah, they would have thought I worked for Satan. If they saw some of the stuff that I was curious about or poked at when it was time to butcher animals, they'd been like, that is the child of Satan. But really, it's common things that we use in physical witchcraft. Did I not tell the people that are in here now, do y'all not know about the blood? The cow, the blood from the cow? I do not. Okay. So, we would butcher enough cows to feed our extended family each. Okay, well, Mariah, you got to suffer through it. We would kill enough just enough cows to feed the extended family for the year. And we mainly did Herefords. Those are the ones that look brownish red with white on them. And every now and then you would get a Hereford cow with horns. And you always kept the horns. I don't know why, but you always kept them. So when one of those cows came around, oh, by the way, when you're raised on a farm, you don't get ick from butchering an animal. It doesn't work that way. And so basically, when you shoot the cow, you string them up. By the way, cows don't realize what's happening. The next cow will step right. They don't even get upset. They'll step right in like, where did Marge go? So they're not like that. Pigs aren't like that, but cows are. So what you do is when you shoot them, you get them on the chain, it pulls them up by the feet like you're going to clean a deer. And then you put one of them big-ass wheelbarrows. Well, first you cut the cow's throat. And then when that's done bleeding out, you pull up the big-ass wheelbarrow, and you slit the cow, and all the junk falls out. And, you clean and you pull out the junk, and then the organs we kept, like the liver and the beef heart, I don't think we kept anything else. Oh, if we was going to make sausage, sometimes we would keep the cow intestines because the membrane makes a bigger sausage than the pig one. But everything else got wheeled over to the pigs. And the pigs would eat it. That's the way it worked. But if the cow had horns, they would take the head off completely. And it would be put into one of those galvanized steel like tubs and took inside the barn. And one year we had one that grew horns because we get them when they're little. They didn't have no horns. And they took the head off, and I was too little to do any of the you know, the stuff with the wheelbarrow and all that. I'd follow back and forth to see how it all worked because I was curious. But anyways, so while they was doing whatever the hell they was doing with Mr. Cow, I went inside the barn. I wanted to go see the head. Um, Not for morbid reasons. I was just curious. And so apparently, what I was doing, because my granny told my mama way later, I'm still really little at this time, was I had I drug over a bale of hay because the galvanized bucket, which is pretty tall, was sitting on top of a feed barrel, which is like a really big, like them barrels that they send when you send in your relatives in Puerto Rico stuff. And it was on top of that. So I had pulled over 2 bales of hay and then climbed up so that I could look inside the tub. And apparently, there wasn't a lot of blood because they did drain it out, but I was going like this into the cow blood. I was doing like designs into cow blood. I didn't know there was anything weird about that. You know, when I first got up, I was looking at the cow to see what was going on. Like, does it look dead? You know what I'm saying? You know, and then I was like, oh, the blood. And I was tracing, doing designs in the cow blood. And I heard the farm door open, and I looked, and it was Granny, so I just went back to what I was doing. And Granny calmly walks up, because she's not going to yell at you. She calmly walks up, and she stands there for a minute. Always got a Winston. She stands there for a minute. And she was like, Jenny Boo, what are you doing? And I was just like, she said, I said something to the effect of, I'm tracing in the blood. I'm drawing in the blood. And that's when she said, she leaned in. She goes, now, Jenny Boo, I need you to look at me for a minute. Now, you can't be doing that stuff in front of anybody else but me. You hear me? Everybody else is going to think you're not right in the head. They're going to try to ship you off to the doctor. She said, I know that it's okay, but you can't be doing that in front of anybody else. You understand? And I was like, yes, ma'am. And she's like, now I can't leave you in here. One of them boys is going to walk in here and see you doing that. We can't be having that right now. So go on and wipe off your hands and come on in here. Now, wipe off the hands was like to wipe it on the cow. She was like, come on out here with me. And I was like, okay. But so it was abnormal. A lot of the stuff was abnormal. Now I know that she just recognized things because it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't. I remember doing something with that, but not what was said and not what I was doing. But I know I remember I wasn't like Jeffrey Dahmer messing with the dead cow. You know what I'm saying? I remember I was curious about anatomy from then, even though that's kind of weird. Because a neck looks really different when you cut all the way through it, you know? And my grandma before had told me that that's the breathing pipe. That's the breathing pipe. That's what that hole is. That's the hole where your nerves go to your brain. But it's weird to see it, but it's not weird when you're raised on a farm. You see the anatomy of animals way more than you ever thought you would from birth. But yeah, apparently that was the conversation that they had. And I didn't know. But that's what she said. I can't leave you in here. One of them boys is going to come in here and see you. They going to say you're not right in the head. But she'd always go, ain't nothing wrong with you, girl. But they going to think there's something wrong with you in the head. That's because they take you to the doctor to ship you off. That's what they'd say, how they'd say it. She's going to take you one of them doctors that'll ship you off. And you didn't want that in rural because you never came back. Those people got locked up. You could still lock them up then, no matter your age. So the biggest fear ever was getting shipped off to go to one of them doctors that ships you off because they still had asylums in. You never got to come home. But I do resemble my grandma. If you take my mom's mom and my dad's mom, which is my granny, and you put them on top of each other, you get me. Like, you put those two photos at the same age on top of each other, you get me. But, well, I'm trying to replicate my granny's accent. She was, it's the best way. It's the way I remember her voice, you know. Um, my granny was the only one like her, though. Nobody else in my family was like Granny. Only Granny. Only Granny. So yeah, so a lot of things clicked for me when I was older. Um, I'm getting ready to go sleep too. I don't judge a kid ever, but she would reprimand me when I was doing something wrong. But now that I'm older, I recognize what was her not stifling future witchy things. A totally different tone was what she took to me. Um, it would change. Ordinarily, they'd go in there and she'd be like, "Get your damn hands of that. What's wrong with you?" Da 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 da. You know what I'm saying? There was a difference. There was a difference. And now I understand now why. And then I had to start really thinking back, going, what else did she do that with? Oh, she did it with that. Wait, she did it with that. And there was a lot more things that she did that with. She was. Her death is what triggered my BPD. That was my trigger. Was losing her. But here's the thing. No, my mom's side is from the Low Country. I'm from York County. I totally forgot what I was fixing to say. I just lost it. I just lost it. It went poof. No, my mom has been denial. She was super Baptist when she was coming up. She's more Gnostic now. That bitch blows up TVs when she gets mad. She's so ridiculously nat. If she had practice, that bitch would have made me look like an amateur. Because she can do stuff with her mind and ingredients. She is mad. She can't be mad at an electronic anything or it burns out or explodes. She's busted 2 flat screen TVs. I think 3 or 4 regular old tube TVs like we used to have to. She can break something in a minute. And she's always had psychic abilities. So I can call her with my mind. She'll call me on the phone. She can, but not on purpose. You know what I mean? She can call us into the room, and we thought she said it, and she didn't. She said it with her mind, but we'll hear it. I am O negative, and I still can't do any of that stuff. So if my mom had practiced, she would have made me look like a fucking amateur because she's double talented. So she can do the electronic thing, which has to do with those are the same people that can put the evil eye on you by just looking at you. And she could do the ingredient thing. But she didn't do it this path. I think I was 22 when I figured out that the dark stuff that I work with comes from her line. It's my mom's line that originates in Mesopotamia. And I had secretly seen the dark side of my mom. Yeah, I didn't let her know that, you know. And I think that's why she stayed Christian. I think she was scared of herself. I think that's why she always stayed Christian. I think when she was coming up, they were severely Christian, and the stuff that she could see, and the stuff that she could do, she, I have no doubt that she was brainwashed into thinking that, you know, like Satan lived within her, because she's always been like that. Yeah, it's capable for people to do that. 'Cause when you raised anything Christian, any of the dark is considered bad. But really, that's not the case. Um, there's a couple of things that let you know if you was meant to work with the left-hand path. I'm too tired to think of them. I'm fixing to get off here, but the most, the one that everyone seems to have when they're built to work with the left-hand path is the difference that you have, no matter if it's a close relative or not, between when they're alive and when they're dead. I cried about my granny until I seen her body in the coffin. And I didn't have the words. My mom said I told her it was empty. You can literally, it's a weird thing. So, and y'all know how close I was with my granny. But I couldn't even cry when I saw her body because she was empty. I mean, it was physically her, but she was empty. And that is a telltale sign that if it's not because you're in shock, um, you, that's usually a very good telltale sign. Oh, that's kind of cool. That you can work with the left hand path and not get weighted down, or if you're not made to work in it, you age really fast. You get very bitter. But no, I'm not talking about accepting. It's not there. Like you're like, what is that? Even though you're looking at a body, you're like, what is that? It has, I'll put it to you this way, zero value. Zero value. They could have took Granny's body and thrown her ass in a wood chipper. And I'd have been like, well, I mean, you're recycling. The body, once the soul leaves, has zero value. To the point where we stopped having funerals. I don't want a funeral. Right, Sam. So the body has zero value. So when people get upset, so we don't understand when people get upset at things that were done to corpses, or they burnt up the wrong person. We're like, okay, I don't understand why you're upset. We don't get that concept. It has zero value. The minute they leave, it has zero value. And literally, you'd be like, well, put them in the wood chipper. I don't care if they weren't stiff yet. You're like, yeah, throw them in the wood chipper. No value at all. Except like, I wish I want to get my mom's head, her skull, for magical purposes. But the value of the body has nothing. Yes, it was worth everything. And the second, you'll feel it too if you're like this and you're ever in the presence of someone that you love. It happens with people you don't love too. But with people you love, the second their soul leaves, just like that, they can still be hooked up to machinery. And the second the soul leaves, you're like, well, it's time to go. Like you're done. It holds no value. You're going through the motions when you get them ready for their funeral. It's weird. It's fucking weird. It's like you view them as a puppet, uh, without the hand in it. And it's other people don't understand that. And it seems to be something that is, you're born with it or you're not. Yeah, you're born with it or you're not. And so people might see you as careless, but you're like, it's not there anymore. I don't know what that is. It has no value to me at all. And so that's a telltale sign that you are able physically or structurally to work with left hand path, because the left hand path deals with lower vibration. And if the death of a loved one does not bring you to lower vibrations when you see their body in front of your face, then it is because you were born into. You ever seen that TikTok? I was born in the dark. It's it's not scary to you, and it feels awkward, but then you were kind of physically made. Yeah, they are like avatars. You're physically, structurally, not physically. You're structurally made to work with dark energy or left hand path. And it's not a lack of empathy. It's not like you're like, that sucks that your spouse died. It literally has to do with the zero value as soon as something dies. Zero. I would not want to be a medium. Yeah. Yeah, it might look like they're sleeping, but the minute the soul departs the body, you know immediately. It's almost like a quietness. I guess it is like the vibration that you, BP started when she died, and I woke up at her funeral. Yeah, I told you have that blank out spot after your BPD trigger. It's like somebody said the vibration, it's quiet. You know, like you don't realize you can hear the electricity going to your fridge until it cuts off a cycle, and then you're like, oh, it's quiet. It's like that. It gets quiet. Their vibration is gone, and that's exactly it's a quiet that you can't hear. You never realize that vibration was there until it's gone, and then you're like, where'd it go? You know, dead. They said you're born in the left too. No, not always, Tara. Sometimes they're just more scientific minded. So it's not always that. They might fall out crying. Um, but it's more of they're more scientific minded than that. So no, you don't have to be like that to work with the dead or do autopsies or any of that. Linda, I'm going to have to figure out how to talk about that, because you're not the only one that's ever asked me about that. And I have to figure out, you know how I explain things and people understand? I got to figure out how to teach people what that is, and how to let it, because you got to understand, low vibrational energy triggers things in your body. So if a low vibrational entity comes into your space, these are low vibrational emotions that your body does. So what it feels like, it can be, you might get anxiety, your stomach you might get nauseous, you might feel fear for no reason, you might feel icky for no reason, and it feels the exact same. So the only difference is when it's an entity, those type of reactions will go away if you sit there long enough. Because your body's system interprets that as, oh, I must be sick or scared or anxious, because it feels the exact same. And so that's why people feel that way when they think something dark enters the room, because it's going to make you feel that way. You have to sit there for a minute to let that sensation pass. If it doesn't pass, then you actually are sick. You actually are having an anxiety attack. You actually are this. You actually are that. But you have to wait, because it will go away once your body's like, oh, My bad. That's coming from outside. That's not coming from in me. So I got to figure out how to explain that properly to people. Because you're not the only one that's asked me. All right. So I got to go to bed now. This is going to auto upload, so you won't have to wait for it. I don't have to transfer it from YouTube. So it's going to auto upload automatically. Okay? Okie dokie. Bye bye.